Hi everyone, welcome back to the Book Vandal Shop. Today is part 2 of working on our little folio made from a file folder. Okay, and where we left off was we had created the base for our folio and we had inked up all the edges. Okay, so if you haven't seen that part, you can go back and watch part 1. I'll make sure to link it below. And so we should be ready to put on our paper. Let's see. In this folio, I created sort of a seamless look here. It's where my paper, you can't hardly tell where it starts and stops. And I made sure that with the pockets, it continues. Okay, see how that does that? And this paper just continues down, and then with the pockets, it continues over. Okay, and so I've done that with a full sheet of paper, and I will show you how you can do the same effect making cuts in certain places. Okay, so if you want to do that same seamless look I have, you are going to need 2 sheets of matching paper, 2 sheets of identical sheets of paper. If you don't want to do it that way, by all means just cut your papers to fit and you know, go on, but I'm going to show you how to do it the way I have. Okay, now let me back you up. At first glance, it looks like our 12 by 12 sheet of paper is not going to fully cover our folio from top to bottom. Okay, but if you make the cuts the way I'm going to show you, it will work just fine. Okay, now let me zoom you back down so you can see where I'm making marks. Okay, now I'm working on the top of my folio right here. And the first cut I'm going to make, actually, strike that. First cut I'm going to make is this side right here on the side flap. All right, so side flap, leaving a little bit of a gap. There's my one score line, there's my other score line, and I'm going to mark just on this side, okay? And that's going to be my very first cut. Let me bring my paper trimmer over here. I am in a different spot today for various reasons. I'll be back in my normal spot, but today I am in the we call it the family room. It's like a great room. There's family room and dining area, and then our wall-to-wall, floor-to-ceiling bookshelf library area. So it's a great big room. So if I'm echoing, I'm sorry. Okay, so we're going to trim that to fit our flap. Now the next cut we're going to make is going to be our top flap. Okay, so I do have it sideways, and that is just so that it's easier for me to keep it in camera. So that's the top. Okay, and I'm just leaving a little bit of a gap, okay, to kind of frame it out. And I'm marking right about here. And let me hold that up so you can see. So here is our one score line, our other score line, the little spine thing in the middle, and I'm marking on this side right here. Okay, that's where we're going to cut this way. And that's going to be for up there. This is for our side piece. It'll all come together here in just a second. Now, let's go ahead and cut our flap for over here on this right-hand side. Okay, so what we're going to want to do is we're going to mark it, the center part, okay, and then I'm going to slide, see that mark? Okay, that's going to fit for the center section, just inside each of my score marks. And then I'm going to slide that mark over here. See, I'm going to make 2 cuts at a time. See how I'm doing that? Slide that mark right there. And I'm going to mark here, right there, for my flap section. Okay, so I'm essentially making 2 strips. Okay, so there's that. And hang on. And there's that. All right, see how it looks continuous? Okay. All right, now it looks like we might have a dilemma, but we don't. Okay. See how this sheet of paper looks like it's not going to be big enough? It will be, okay? So here's the important part. We're going to cut the bottom part first before I do the center. So I'm going to slide this down for my bottom part. Let me slide it over so we can see. There's the one score mark, the second score mark, and I'm going to mark just on this side, okay? There we go. So that fits just inside my flap. All right, this is the part that's left over. We're going to put it where it belongs. Now, if you look close, it looks like it's too small because my gap down here at the bottom is a lot bigger. But that's okay because remember, I have a pocket in mine and it's going to cover that little gap. So see, one sheet of paper works fantastically. All right. Okay, now what do we still need to do? We need to cut the width for this up at the top. So I'm just going to trim that right there. Okay. And let me turn this sideways. There we go. We need to round the corners of this. There we are. Let's go ahead and round the corners for the bottom piece. All right, there we are. It's coming together. Okay, now this is our flap piece, okay? So what we want to do is kind of get these in place. There we are, where they're going to go. And then I want to line this up to where it matches, okay, so that it looks seamless. So right about there, right? Right about there is where it matches. Now I'm going to take my straight edge and I'm just going to mark it just inside the flap. That way I have an edge showing all the way around. And I'm following the same angle as my flap when I mark it. And without moving it, sort of. Easier said than done. I'm going to do the same thing on this side. Following the same angle as my flap. I'm going to mark just inside. I'm just going to cut these off with my scissors. Okay, and hang on to all your scraps that you've cut off of here because we're going to be using them. Okay, see how that fits just inside the flap and looks seamless. Let's flip it around and do the other flap. And you could go ahead and glue these pieces down and it might make it easier for you when you're lining up your flaps, but I'm going to do mine all at one time off camera so you don't have to watch me inking and gluing. Okay, now I need to line this up where it's supposed to be. And right about, where did that go? There we go. Because I had cut mine off ahead of time. That makes it tricky. All right, there we go. Following the angle on my flap. There's one mark and do this side over here. There we go. And that will go just like that. So that's the first part of making it look seamless. Okay, let me back it up so you can see it as a whole. Check that out. Pretty cool, huh? The lighting's not the best out here, sorry. All right, I am going to ink up all the edges of my pieces and go ahead and glue them on, and you do the same, and then I will come right back. Okay, so I have glued on all my pieces of paper and inked around the edges of them. Okay, and now it's time to put on our pockets. Okay, so the first pocket I'm going to start with, right, is this wide one right here in the middle, and then we have a pocket here, here, and another one on the back. So let's start with this pocket, and what I'm using first is my scrap from where we cut off our file folder when we made our base, and then you will probably need a few extra cardstock scraps or file folder scraps to make the rest of the pockets. It doesn't quite go as far as we need it to go. So let me move my light over here a little bit. This lighting in here is not real great. There we go. Okay, the first pocket I'm going to do right here is the center. So what I want is I want to have a flap around my pockets to have a way to glue them on. I'll show you what I mean. So first I'm going to mark where I want to make my first score line. And what I'm doing, okay, is I'm making about a 1/2 inch mark, okay? And it honestly, it doesn't have to be exactly measured, okay? I'm just folding over about a 1/2 inch there, okay? And that is going to be what lines up on the edge for our pocket. See that? Okay. So that's where that's going to go. Now, follow over. Let me zoom down even more. There we go. So see that line? Fold it over. You have a little flap for gluing on your pocket. Line that up just inside your score marks in here, okay? You don't want to be all the way over to the score mark. You don't want to create a pinch point for when it's folding. So back off of that score line just a tad, okay? Come over here, back off of this score line just a tad so we don't create a pinch point when we're folding. You know, stay away from this mark. Come in just a little bit, okay? And I'm going to make a mark. That's not where I'm cutting. That's where I'm folding, okay? And you could use your scoreboard for this if you have one. I have one. I just hate digging it out. It's big and noisy, and with me dropping it on the table and all that. Okay. Now, I just need a little bit right there for my flap, so I'm just going to trim it off of my paper trimmer over here. There we are. Okay. So essentially now I have that, okay, and when my flaps are folded in, it fits perfectly on my width, okay. Now I want to make a flap for the bottom, okay, and let me grab my straight edge. This works great for doing this, and in fact, if you want to be really precise, I'm just going to measure up about a 1/2 inch on that side, about a 1/2 inch on this side, line up the marks, and then I can just, easier said than done, get that off the table. There we go. I can just fold that against my ruler, and I don't even have to get out my scoreboard, okay? And it will be close enough. All right. Now, let's trim off this little boxy area here. And I think sometimes it's just easier just to cut across like that. Do the same on this side. Just like that. So that when I fold it, it'll look like that on the back. Hopefully that's in focus. I'm a little close. There you are. Okay, now we need to measure for height. So let's bring our booklet back in. And we need to figure out about how high do we want our pocket. I'm thinking about like that. So I'm just going to eyeball it and mark it. Sure. Yep, that looks like a good place. Let me see what that measured. That measured, oh, almost 2 inches. Okay. So I'm going to take this over to my paper trimmer and I'm just going to trim it straight across. And then we'll be ready to glue our pocket on. Okay, so that is our first pocket. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to ink up the edges and I'm going to glue the pocket on in this place, and I'm only putting the glue on these little flaps that we made. Okay, and then I will be right back. Okay, so now I have my pocket glued on and we'll cover it up here in just a minute. Let's go ahead and make our top and bottom pockets. Okay, so we're going to make this little side pocket and this little side pocket up here. So I have just a scrap piece of file folder from another project, or you can use scrap cardstock, whatever you got laying around. Okay, and what I'm going to do is essentially the same thing. Okay, I'm going to have me about a 1/2 inch flap for this side. I need a 1/2 inch flap for that side. And then let me go ahead and fold those first. Okay, so that's my flap for this part of the pocket. Let me go up here and measure. And I'm going to mark just on this side of this score line. Okay, and I don't want to get right up against it again. I don't want it to bunch. That's going to be the second place I fold. Okay, and then I only need just a little bit more, about a 1/2 inch or so for my flap. Okay, let me trim that off. And if you've already done these type of pockets before, I'm sure this is boring to you, but I want anybody to be able to accomplish this. Okay, so see how that's going to fit in there? I have a flap for gluing down here, and I have a flap for gluing up here, and my fold lines are what fits just inside. Okay, and then I've already marked for my flap on this side. And kind of want that one to be nice and square, so I will go ahead and measure it. I'm going to go 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch, and I'm just going to use my ruler and fold against my ruler. I have this little spatula that comes with like your Cricut cutting machines, and that works great for doing that. But I didn't bring it out here, so. Alright, so there's my other flap. I'm going to bend it back the way I need it to go. Okay, again, I'm going to cut out my corners. Okay, there we are. This is going to go right in here, just like this. Okay, and I know you're thinking, oh, I've got a square corner and a round corner together. That's okay. Leave it for now. We're going to trim it with our corner rounder and it'll be just fine. Okay, now let's go ahead and trim for the width of our pocket. And for this one, let's go about, 1, 2, I don't know, 2 inches ought to be good. You can trim it to whatever you want. 2.5. Let's go 2 1/4. Split the difference. Okay. There's my little side pocket. Okay. I can go ahead and, while my flaps are folded together nice and flat, I can put this through my corner rounder and it will be okay. I'm not putting sand or something in this pocket, so it's okay if I have a little gap. All right, and then I'm going to ink up the edges here. And one more thing you can also do if you want to is if you don't want these little flaps right here to show quite so much, you can trim them down just a hair at an angle, just a little tiny. There we go, now I'm in focus. Just a little tiny angle if you want to. And if you ink on the inside, if you peek down in your pocket there, you won't see the brightness so much, okay? All right, and then we're just gonna glue this on. And these rounded corners, what I like to do is just go ahead and put a little dab of glue on it ahead of time to kind of hold that little rounded corner nice together, okay? And now just go ahead and glue your pocket on as normal. And what you're going to do is you're going to make an identical pocket just like this for the top flap, okay? Just like you just did with this one. You're just going to do it all over again. Let me glue this on here real quick. Okay, let me bring my other one back in. So I had a pocket on the right hand side down here, okay? And we're gonna make an identical pocket for the top flap. The only difference was I put it on the opposite side just so it seemed like it balanced out, okay? You can do whatever you want to. And then one more thing real quick. The reason I put the pocket on the side is because if I had put a pocket just like this one down here, when I close my flap, everything's gonna fall out of it inside. Okay, so that's why I went with these side pockets for the flaps, okay? All right, so make another flap just like this one for the top, okay? And then we'll come right back. Okay, so we've glued our pockets on, top and bottom, and now we're ready to put our paper on. And again, if this is the way you want to do it, the way I did, making it look kind of like it was seamless or continuous, okay, that's where we need that other sheet of matching paper. If you want to just use your paper scraps, that's absolutely great. Making these cuts, it does want to make you cry. You're like, oh, I'm wasting my paper. But you know, I don't know, can't hang on to paper forever. So, and you're going to use the scraps, okay? You'll use the scraps, I promise. All right, so the first cut I'm going to make for my pockets is I'm lining up down here the bottom edge, paper to paper, okay? One paper to the other paper, lining it up, okay? And it's easy to see on this one. Let me zoom down. It's easy to see on this one because I have lines, okay? And so I'm just going to mark it right there where the other paper's at, okay? And I'm going to cut it the same size. Oops, my paper fell on the floor. I'll have to go chase that. Okay, now I'm trimmed for my height, and what I want to do now is I want to line up where the other one was at, okay? So I have some leaves down here to help me with that, and I'm just going to get them close, and I'm going to make a mark just on the inside of my pocket. Let me slide that up a little bit so I can get to a square edge on my side, and I'm going to mark it just on this side for my pocket, okay? Let me cut that. Lost my mark. Let me bring it back over so I can see my mark again. Where did my mark go? Boy, I can't seem to find my mark at all. Okay. Oh, that's because I cut this edge first. My mark's on this piece. Good grief, Dawn. Okay. There we are. So this was my big strip I had, and I cut a section out of the center of it. See, that's for my pocket. Now, don't fret. We will use this and this, okay? Let's just set those off to a safe place, along with my other scraps from the first sheet of paper we did. Okay, now I gotta pick up my paper from the floor. Hang on. I don't bend down as easy as I used to. Okay, this is gonna go here, and I'm just gonna ink mine and glue them all up at the end, okay? So we wanna not forget to round our corner. There we are. Okay, so that one's gonna go for that pocket. All right, I'm gonna set it off to the side. I'll ink it, glue it on. Let's work on this pocket. All right, so again, I'm just lining up so that it looks continuous. Okay, and that's about where that should go. Maybe right about there, okay? Oops, more like over there, isn't it? There we are. Duh. Line up your edges of your paper over here. I'll tell you what, maybe I haven't had enough coffee today. All right, marking that side. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and mark this edge too. All right, I'm going to trim that and that mark for my width for my pocket. All right, so these are my two pieces I had left over. I'm just going to set them right there at the side. Okay, so that is going to fit on that pocket just like that. And now I need to trim it for its height. Right there. Trim that off. Boy, I have a hard time seeing my marks in here, in this lighting. Excuse me. That's going to go right there. So again, we're looking nice and seamless, and I'm going to set this off to the side. I will ink it and glue it on. And then now we need to work on the top part. So this is where this piece of paper, see, where it came in to play. And I'm lining it up here on the top. Let me trim. Yeah, I can trim just a hair off of that. There we are. Okay, so I'm lining up. There we go. My top edge paper to paper and this edge paper to paper, okay? And I need to mark it for its height. So paper to paper. Okay, so basically I have the same thing. All right, and then I just need enough for my pocket. So right about there. There we go. Flip that around so I can see it better. Around the corner. And all these little paper scraps, just hang on to them and do a little project with them. Use them for embellishing here in a bit. All right, that looks pretty good other than my pencil mark down there that I'll erase. Okay, so I'm going to ink all of these up and glue them on, and then I will come back and we will do the other side. Okay, so I've glued the papers on my pockets and inked around the edges of them, and now it's time to work on the reverse side. So this would be the inside of our booklet, and now we need to work on all of this side. Okay, all right, let me bring this one back in. This is the one I already did. Okay, so here's my front flap, okay, and then this is the back side, and it has a pocket. And then this is the little flap that is right here. Okay, and it does have a pocket in it, and that's okay because, you know, when I bring it down, usually you're going to have it laying flat on a table, so I'm not too worried about things falling out of it, you know, unless you're going to hold it up in the air and let it dangle. So let's go ahead and work on that side. And what we're going to do is we're going to use our paper scraps from earlier that we cut off, okay? And we're going to use almost all of these. Okay, and the first ones I want to do is I'm going to bring back in, I had some little scraps from when we did our reverse side, when we cut the flaps. Okay, so let's use those. And what I may do is flip this around so I can see what it looks like when it's closed, and then I can know how I want my papers on there. So see, I don't really want that one on there because I have this down here. So I'm going to use the reverse side, and look, my angle is already cut there. All I have to do is cut the angle there. Okay, so that one's going to go for that, and I think I want a matching one on this side, and there's my angle already cut from the first time round. Oh, maybe it's just a tad short. Let me see if this one will work. Yes, this one will work much better. And I just need to cut the angle up here. So glue our ink and glue, trim those, ink and glue them on. Okay, so that will do that, and I'll be right back. Okay, so I've glued those on. Now we need to work on this and this. Let's look at what we have. I think let's do the front part here first. And I think what I want to do is go ahead and round these corners. Set it down here. Let's see if I need to trim it at all, and I do. Okay, so I just want it to fit inside with a little bit of a border. Let me trim that. Okay, yeah, that's going to fit nicely. Now, on this one, I had a little border up there, and I like that, and so I think we're going to do that on this one too. So let's look at some of our slender pieces. This one will work. Yeah, kind of like that. Okay, so I'm just going to trim it down a little bit narrower, and yeah, and it'll make a nice little band. I think on this one, let me measure it. On my original one, the band that I used was around 1 inch. So I think I will do the same thing. I'll trim this to about 1 inch wide and cut it to fit. I'm going to ink everything up, glue it on. Actually, when I was getting ready to glue that on, I flipped it over to put the glue on this side, and then I decided, you know, I think I like that side better for our front cover. And so that's what I'm going to use. I'm going to use this side. I am going to trim it a little straighter though. I don't know what I did there, but I like this side better. So I'm going to trim this a little straighter, ink it, and glue it on. I was going to put the band, you know, when I was using the reverse side, and I decided to use this side, and it doesn't need a band now because that piece of paper is so cool. So what I'm going to do here to embellish it is I have a little piece of, it's like a little burlap ribbon, and I'm just going to put a spot of glue here in the center for that, and then I have a little piece of fabric that I cut into, not a perfect square, I just cut it by eyeballing it. I didn't measure it, and I'm just fraying it out just a little bit, but I don't like how bright it is in contrast to everything else. So what I am going to do is I am going to kind of dingy it up just a little bit with my distress ink here, kind of tone it down a little bit, and then also, because it's so bright, I'm going to, I think, glue the the correct side down and have the reverse side showing, and that makes it not so bright. A little glue under there. Okay, and I want my burlap to show, so I'm just kind of putting it off to the side. And then I have this little wax seal. My daughter and I was kind of playing with my wax seal set yesterday, and she made this one. And I love the coloring. Ooh, put it right in your face, didn't I? Focus. Okay, it doesn't like it. It has some yellows and browns, and it's a flower. Isn't that cute? And I went with this one because of the yellow flower in here. Okay, so that kind of decorates up our front. I like that. I like that a lot. Okay, let's do this piece. And on this one, I had a little pocket here. So that will work great. I'm going to use, this is my bigger sheet of paper. You know what? Let's do the back. I'm going to use this bigger sheet of paper on the back. And let's see, I'm just trying to use up scrap. I really don't want to cut any more sheets of paper if I don't have to. Let's see, let's put that on there. And then if I make a pocket, I can use this. I think that'll work. Yep, that should work. All right. Okay. I'll be inking and gluing that on. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a pocket right here, the same exact way I made my pocket for the center section, okay? So I'm going to make a pocket for it and come right back, okay? Okay, so this is a strip of paper I decided I was going to use for my pocket. So I'm going to make sure that it will work, you know, to cover that gap, and it will. So I'm going to make sure the height of my pocket is the height I need for my piece of paper that I want to use. Okay, so I've glued my pocket on and my paper for that one. And then now we need to do just this flap right here, and then we're done. So I still have some paper scraps left, and I think that's what I'm going to use instead of, you know, digging into a new sheet or rummaging through my box. Let's just use the rest of what we have. So a couple ideas you can do with your paper scraps. Let me show you real quick. You could take some of these bigger sections, and here's an idea that I had. So you could glue this down on this side, and then you could make a side pocket like this one up here. You could make a side pocket and then use one of your strips of paper to cover the side pocket, and then you could do another side pocket so they'd be kind of stacked, and you could use another sheet of your paper for that if you wanted to. So you'd have kind of a double side pocket. That's not what I'm going to do. I'm going to keep it simple because that's what I like. And so I've got this sheet of paper here that I will ink up and glue right there. And then I'm going to create a pocket just like this one. Okay, and I'm going to glue my pocket down there, and then I'm going to use this leftover strip of paper to put on top of it. Okay, so I'm going to do that off camera because you know how to do that now, and I'll be right back. Okay, so I glued that pocket on, and then it's because it's such a big pocket, there's a lot of a gap there. So if you want that to be a tighter fitting pocket, you could actually put just a little dab of glue behind here and kind of turn it into two tighter fitting pockets if you wanted to. Okay, all right, just an idea. Okay, now I am ready to finish kind of decorating this. I have some things picked out, and I'll just go ahead and quickly do them on camera here. Got a little bit of cotton muslin fabric there that I've frayed up, and I did kind of just smudge it a little bit with some Distress ink. And this is a Tim Holtz flower from one of his botanical layer kits. And I'm going to put on there. And another little Tim Holtz ephemera piece. It looks like a little invoice from a hardware store. I'm just going to pop that on behind there. There we go. So that kind of brightens it up. And I went with the yellow colored flowers. Okay, let's do this pocket here. And I have a little bit of burlap. I'm just going to put some glue on the back of this Tim Holtz flower from the same set as the other flower. Okay, put that on there like that. And then this is just a Graphics Fairy tag from her site. And I've just backed it on the back, or backed it on some file folder piece to, oops, that's not, there we go, now you can see. And I'm just gonna let that barely go under. There we go. Push those down, make sure they're nice and adhered. Okay, so done that one and that one. And then I have another, excuse me, Graphics Fairy tag here. I'm going to put right there. And let me cut a little piece of burlap and see if this is just some wired burlap ribbon. And I just cut the center section out, cut the wires off of it. Let's see if we need that. Yeah, I kind of like that better. Makes it stand out a little bit better. Oop, my glue is getting gloppy. Gloppy glue. Okay, I'm trying to hurry up here. This video is ending up to be a lot longer than I originally planned. It's the way it always goes, doesn't it? But I wanted you to see the finished project. Okay. So like that. And then I've decided not to put anything down here just because I didn't want to cover up the greenery. So that's it for the inside. And then now on the back, again, I decided to go with another Graphics Fairy label. You know, I'm not really, I don't know. Yeah, I kind of like it. Do I need a flower back here? No, not really. Okay, I'll put a little bit more burlap underneath that label. Cutting the wires out. Okay. The lighting out here. Next video I will be back in my normal space. Yeah, I like it over there. Too many words. Okay, plop that on my burlap. Put another spot of glue on there, and I think this is it. Okay, and then it's ready to fill it up with whatever you want. Okay, so let me back the camera out a little bit, and then we'll look at it one more time. Oh, I like it. So there's the front and the top. And this drops down. Flaps come out. Look at that. Isn't that cute? Cute, cute, cute. So now I have two of them, one with flowers and one with insects. All right, thanks for joining me with this project. Have fun with it. If you make one, let me know. You can tag me using the @TheBookVandalShop in your video description, and I will be able to see it. Or tag me on Instagram or Facebook so I can see what you made. I'm really excited to see what you guys make. Thanks for joining me on this, and I will see you next time. Be well. Happy crafting. Bye-bye.